Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a seriously fascinating topic: how we remember, judge, and ultimately rank the history of the FIFA World Cup. If you've ever found yourself in a fierce debate with a friend over which tournament was the absolute best, you already know just how heated this conversation gets. We're going to look at the data, the history, and the online discourse to figure out exactly why our memories of these massive global events are so intensely personal.
So, let's jump right in with the million-dollar question. What actually makes a perfect World Cup? Is it the objective quality of the matches, the total goals scored, and the tactical brilliance on the pitch? Or is it something way more subjective? Like, is it just the vibes, the cultural atmosphere, the branding, or maybe even just where you happen to be in your own life when it was all going down?
You know, this comment from a passionate Reddit user basically hits the nail on the head and captures the whole thesis of our explainer today. In a thread debating a professional ranking of past tournaments, they pointed out a super simple truth. Any ranking of these events is absolutely drenched in personal bias. Our favorite tournaments are so heavily influenced by our own nostalgia. What one fan sees as a flawless, legendary event, someone else might view as totally forgettable.
Here's a quick look at our roadmap for today. 1. Judging the World Cup. 2. The flawed early years. 3. Modern tournament debates. 4. The perfect mascot formula. 5. Memorable mascot misfires. And finally, 6. The nostalgia factor.
Section 1. Judging the World Cup, the challenge of ranking 23 tournaments. That number right there, 23, is kind of the whole crux of the issue. That's how many FIFA World Cup finals tournaments we've had, stretching all the way back to 1930. When experts and fans try to rank them objectively, they hit a massive brick wall. I mean, how do you even compare the bare-bones, primitive logistics of a tournament played nearly a century ago against today's highly produced, multi-billion-dollar modern spectacles? It's pretty much an impossible task, and that's exactly why it always sparks such fierce debate.
Section 2. The flawed early years. Debunking the romance of the past.
It's super easy to look back at the early days, like the inaugural 1930 tournament in Uruguay with these rose-tinted glasses. Fans love to romanticize those original games. But let's do a quick reality check here. Only 13 teams actually participated. Why? Well, because getting to South America back then required these incredibly arduous sea journeys. Factoring continent-wide boycotts and political superiority complexes at the time, and you ended up with only Belgium, France, Romania, and Yugoslavia making the trip from Europe. So it wasn't exactly this unified, pristine global spectacle. It was actually a highly fragmented logistical nightmare.
And that historical reality sets up a much broader comparison. You see this vividly when you contrast the primitive 1950 era with the highly polished 2022 era. Take the 1950 World Cup, famous for the legendary Maracanazo where Uruguay upset Brazil. Online commentators talk about it constantly, but historians will quickly point out that outside of that single, culturally massive game, the rest of the competition was wildly primitive. We're talking voluntary political absences, uneven structures, completely different rules. When you compare that raw, chaotic era to the hyper-structured, high-definition tournaments of today, you realize just how much our view of the past is tinted by the myth of one or two legendary games rather than the reality of the whole event.
Section 3. Modern tournament debates. Pitch action versus off-pitch controversies. If you dive into forums like Reddit, the modern fan divide is absolutely perfectly captured by the split between Germany 2006 and Qatar 2022. Look at 2006. Fans obsess over the vibe. They point to the unmatched atmosphere, amazing weather, and what many consider the ideal European host scenario. But if we're being objective, the football itself was incredibly defensive, with a glaring lack of scoring in the knockout stages. On the exact flip side, you have 2022. The on-pitch action was undeniably thrilling, ending in what many argue is the greatest final match ever played. Yet for a huge chunk of fans, the whole event is permanently stained by the off-pitch controversies of the host nation and the sheer disruption of a winter schedule. So it forces us to ask, do we rank a World Cup by the quality of the football or by the feeling of the festival?
Section 4. The perfect mascot formula. Transitioning from the pitch to the branding.
Okay, so if you really want to understand how a specific era is remembered, you got to look at its mascot. A successful World Cup mascot isn't just a cartoon, it's meticulously designed graphic art. It has to act as a cultural ambassador, perfectly blending specific national identity with playful, fun touches, all while keeping universal appeal for a massive global audience. Design experts will tell you this is a ridiculously difficult balance to strike. You have to honor the host nation, but still be totally accessible to a 5-year-old kid anywhere on the planet.
When they get it right, though, it's absolute magic.
Let's quickly count down the top 5 highest-rated mascots based on public sentiment and design critiques. Number 1 is Zakumi from South Africa in 2010. He's universally praised for his energetic personality and clever design touches, like having green hair so he could camouflage against the soccer pitch. Number 2 is Narinjito from Spain, 1982, who brilliantly dodged tired cultural cliches, like a bull, and instead gave us a fresh, modern Spain through a smiling orange. Then we have France's Futix, who modernized a classic national emblem. The one who started it all, England's World Cup Willie from 1966. And Brazil's Fleco, an endangered armadillo who actually tied a real environmental purpose into his playful design. These are the guys who perfectly executed the formula.
Section 5. Memorable mascot misfires, when creativity goes too far.
Okay, yes, a pantless lion and a floating ghost. Literally. These are just a couple of the actual, real-life creative decisions signed off on by official committees over the years. Because when mascot designs miss the mark, wow, they really miss it. Usually they fail by either being way too boringly corporate or just bizarrely abstract.
It's honestly fascinating how some of these ideas actually got greenlit. Take Golio VI from Germany 2006. He was an anthropomorphized lion who, for some inexplicable reason, did not wear pants. And to make it weirder, his sidekick was a talking ball named Peel, which meant the official mascot spent the entire tournament violently kicking his best friend. Then you have Laif from Qatar 2022. The idea was to represent a traditional headdress, but the execution was so abstract that audiences around the world widely mistook him for a floating ghost. And let's not forget Atto, Kazaz, and Nick from 2002. They were a trio of energy aliens from the fictional Atmozone. The craziest part? They didn't even play soccer. They played a made-up sport called Atmoball. They were completely disconnected from the actual event they were supposed to be hyping up.
Section 6. The nostalgia factor. Why we love what we love.
So, we've talked historical logistics, we've talked fierce modern internet debates, and we've laughed at some wild swings in cultural branding. But what does it all really boil down to? It pretty much comes back to this one incredibly simple, powerful sentiment from a Reddit user. 1994 was peak for me, age 12. You see, our absolute favorite tournaments, the ones we'll get into arguments over in the comment sections, are almost always inextricably tied to the exact age we were when we first fell in love with the game. It's not just about the stats on the pitch or the quirky mascots, it's about that pure feeling of childhood wonder that we've permanently attached to those memories.
The biggest takeaway here is that history is always this messy, wonderful mix of cold, hard facts and super warm personal memories. And as we look ahead to 2026, which is going to be a massive tournament with a record 48 teams across 3 host nations, bringing us 3 brand new digital mascots named Maple, Zoo, and Clutch, we have to wonder, where is this next huge chapter going to land in the history books? Will we remember it for its objective, on-pitch excellence, or is it just waiting to become the nostalgic peak for a whole new generation of 12-year-olds? I'd absolutely love to hear your thoughts on this, so take everything we went over today and keep the debate going. Thanks so much for hanging out with me on this explainer.